Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 146 of Crunch Time with the N326 duo. I'm your host, Sam Godsey, and with me today, as always, is Tanner Dislin. Tanner, how are you doing tonight? Is opening night for the NBA. Your Knicks are taking on defending champions, the Boston Celtics. How are you feeling?
Sam, I'm happy to be adding more sports to the mix. Obviously, we've said it once, we've said it a million times. October, so much going on. Awesome time to be alive. But Sam, I've had better weeks. It was a disaster of a sports weekend. Now, some of this might be, first world problems with the Vikings losing their first game, falling to 5-1. Obviously, I'm still pretty happy with the way this team has performed this year. But between Iowa losing, the Vikings losing, and the Mets finally being eliminated in the postseason, and having to watch two of my least favorite teams play in the World Series, Sam, it's bleak. But hey, the Knicks are back on. Karl-Anthony Towns is a Knick. There seems to be some pretty big expectations for this Knicks team. They apparently can't play defense. They are playing Boston, who is off to a quick shooting start. But I'm happy to add more sports, Sam, but I'm not going to lie. I'm a little broken coming into this episode.
Oh, I'm sure you are. But we got a action-packed episode for y'all. As always, we're going to kick it off with winners, losers. Tanner is going to fill in on the MLB playoffs, what has gone on since the last episode. We're going to recap some college football, NFL, give our players of the week, kick off some pick'em of the week with a very special guest, and of course, wrap up the episode with questions. But Tanner, let's kick off as we always do. Who is your winner of the episode?
Yeah, Sam, I get an interesting one because my winner is going to result from a picture, Sam. It is a picture that has people have been calling for it for a very long time. And so my winner is going to be Minnesota sports, Sam, because over the weekend, they had one of the most iconic pictures in sports history remade with a modern twist. In the 90s, when the Timberwolves had Kevin Garnett and the Vikings had Randy Moss, in the 90s and 2000s, they had this picture on, I don't remember what magazine it was, but all the sports magazines of the two of them. They were wearing each other's jerseys, and it was a pretty cool moment for Minnesota sports. Obviously, we know one of the most tortured sports cities out there. It's any Minnesota sports fan cave. Picture will always be up there. And since current day, the Timberwolves seem to have drafted a star in his own right in Anthony Edwards, and of course Minnesota, the Vikings drafting Justin Jefferson, two of the best in the game at their position. For the past couple of years now, people have been calling for remaking that photo, and sure enough, Sam, this past weekend they did. Justin Jefferson was wearing an Anthony Edwards jersey. Anthony Edwards was wearing a Justin Jefferson jersey, but they were each wearing the throwbacks, so they kind of looked like the other one. And, I thought it was pretty cool. So I got to give a little shout out to Minnesota. Obviously, a little part of me will always be with Minnesota sports, being a Vikings fan. But I thought that was pretty cool. And in a sports week where not a lot went well for me, I got to shout that out to a city that I love. So Minnesota sports fans got the remake of the photo, and it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, that is very cool. I saw that picture, but didn't it get announced months ago? Or am I just making that up in my head?
It might have, but I've just, being on a part of Minnesota sports Twitter because of the Vikings, I've seen, I can't remember if it was just being called for so many times.
Yeah.
They actually announced it. I can't remember. They might have actually announced it, but it was released over the past week. And it's sweet. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, absolutely. For my winner, Tanner, I'm going to go with a high school in Pennsylvania. The Westinghouse Bulldogs they're currently in their City League football playoffs. And they had to play a semifinal game with just 11 players after the previous game. They got in a fight, a bunch of players suspended. Tanner, these 11 players beat Perry High School 68-0.
Youch.
Yeah, so you gotta be a winner when you're only playing 11 players. Some of the players got interviewed this after the game, and they're like, "Yeah, I've never played defense in my life," and they still didn't allow a single point. So thought that was definitely worthy of a winner. But Tanner, let's flip it on the other side of the coin. Who is your loser?
Yeah, Sam, stop me if you've heard this before. It's probably our most common loser. I mean, our most common winner has to be, is it Caitlin Clark, probably?
Probably.
And on that same note, our most common loser is the WNBA because they have added another item to their ledger of embarrassment on, was it Sunday? I think it was Sunday. Sunday night was game 5, not game 7, game 5 of the WNBA finals because they only play 5-game series because duh. And it was a winner take all game, of course, and it went down to the wire. And in the final minutes, it was Breanna Stewart who so clearly traveled.
Mm-hmm.
The refs did not call it. And then, of course, on top of not of missing a travel call, called a foul on one that didn't look like a foul. And it was a critical point because she stepped up and made 2 free throws, and she was able to send the game to overtime where the Liberty actually won in overtime. And believe it or not, Lynx fans, Lynx players, and the sports media landscape as a whole was not very happy with this call, and rightfully so. I mean, the Lynx coach, Cheryl Reeve, went on a kind of a little an outburst at her press conference, which was totally deserved. She knows she's going to get fined. She is completely okay with that because her team got screwed out of a championship. Multiple Lynx players claiming that the title was stolen from them, as it looked like it was. A player named Nafisa Collier put on her Instagram story. It was just still pictures of like a play that where a foul wasn't called, where she has a clear hand like in her face, like making contact with her, and a bunch of other photos of clear fouls that were not called. And guys like Jason Whitlock of Fox Sports, he called the WNBA finals a rigged, what did he call it? Rigged embarrassment, and called the WNBA the worst run league in the history of American sports, which hard to disagree with him there. And then to top it all off, after the complete embarrassment of officiating, after all of this happened, the Liberty won, and the WNBA commissioner walked on the court for the trophy presentation in a dress that had the New York skyline. Now, that just can't happen. Like I think there's a chance because Game 5 was in New York, I think.
Yeah,
it was right. Game 5 was in New York, so there's a chance that maybe she was just like, I'm going to be in New York, so I'll wear in New York. Still, if that was her thought process, it's just a horrible look. After the way it happened, everyone's like, oh, it might be rigged because that was some BS. Her to walk out in a New York City skyline to present the trophy is absolutely absurd. It can't happen. And just add this to the ledger of Minnesota sports fan heartbreak because, Sam, it's hard to argue with the fact that this one was stolen from him.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually watching that game. It was very clearly missed calls across the board. And for the people saying they still had overtime, yeah, but if they called it right, there would be no overtime. So, yeah, Minnesota got absolutely screwed.
Seems so.
But on my side of the loser coin, this dude, isn't known for being a big loser in college football, but some recent comments he has made definitely qualifies him as a loser. Of course, I am talking about Travis Hunter.
Oh,
Did you see his comments regarding Ashton Jonty?
no.
So he was recently on RG3's podcast, Out of Pocket. They were talking about how Travis Hunter and Ashton Jonty are the two 1 and 2 for the Heisman, and he basically said Jonty has, I think, 95 carries for 1,000 yards. If I had 95 catches, how much yards you think I'd have? If I had 95 targets on defense, what do you think I have? If I had 95 catches on offense, how do you think I'd have? What do you think I'd have? I try to tell you he's got double the touches I've gotten on the offensive side of the ball, and I still have defensive stat. That's still crazy. We're only in week 6, so I am not gonna argue about it.
Anyone having to go up there and say, "Oh yeah, he's got this." Imagine how many I'd have if I had that. It's absurd. I mean, it's just absurd. You're one of the best players in college football. Anytime you do that, you just completely stoop to whatever level. I can't believe that he would think that was a good idea. I mean, yeah, I don't. And it reminded me of something else in baseball, which I'm going to make an honorary loser. I don't know if you saw this as well. The Emmanuel Clase, the best closer in baseball all year, he had a rough series against the Yankees, and after one of the games he blew. It was the second game he blew in the postseason. So, the people were like, "Yo, what's going on with Clase?" And he decided to go on social media
and just always good idea.
Post a video of all of his awards. He just walked around showing all his awards. Very next day, blew it against the Yankees. So it's just anytime you feel like you have to go up and defend yourself, like, we know you're good, bro.
Yeah.
We know you're good. It's fine. You're okay. And just the absurdity of he has 95 carries, like averaging 10 yards a rush and 10 yards a reception are even remotely similar, which Jonty obviously averages way more than 10 yards a carry.
And so Jonty responded. He said, "Kudos to Travis. He's balling for real. He's doing some stuff we ain't ever seen nobody do. Personally, I don't take no offense to it. He's just speaking his opinion. Everybody's got one. For me, what I've been doing hasn't been done in 36, 37 years. So that's something special. If I keep that up and break a record that's been around for 36 years, I feel like you really can't compete with that." And obviously the record he is referring to is Barry Sanders. Back in 1988, he rushed for 2,628. And Jonty is well on his way to surpass that, considering he has 1,248 just through 6 games. So, definitely give me an interesting race down the stretch for Heisman.
But 2 ways to handle it. One guy, look what he's got. Imagine if I had all that, and the other guy, like, you're good, bro. Like, fine, what? I don't care. Like, it's just 2 completely different ways to handle it, and frankly, one to me at least seemed a better way. But
just maybe.
Yeah, just maybe.
You ready to talk some baseball? Go on the diamond, Tanner.
No, but I will.
Okay. Let's talk about it. MLB has finally reached that World Series matchup. It seems everybody minus Guardians and Mets fan, we're kind of looking forward to the Dodgers versus the Yankees. But Tanner, take us back. How did we get here?
Yeah, man. So we covered all the way to the NLCS. And simply put, in both, NLCS and ALCS. So the CS. In both series, Sam, it was kind of just, it pretty much was just one team bludgeoning the other. And they were 2 kind of opposite series in that, the Mets and the Dodgers was, I think, as a series, the better series. The Mets gave the Dodgers a series. They went to 6 games, and in game 6, at one point, I believe in the 6th or 7th inning, the Mets had the go-ahead run at the plate before the Dodgers added more on late and made that game out of hand. But it was a better series overall. But the Yankees and the Guardians, each game was an absolute nail-biter, even though the Yankees won 4-1. They had 2 games go to extra innings, Sam, including maybe the game of the postseason with the Yankees. It was the first game, Class A Blue. The Yankees came back from 3 runs down, or 2 runs down, excuse me. They took the lead. Then they added another. Then the Guardians, down to their last out, hit a 2-run home run in the 9th off the Yankees closer to tie it. Then they ended up winning in extras. Absolute craziness. But 2 games in extras. Most games were close. Guardians had chances to tie in pretty much almost every game, but it was a 4-1 series. Then on the other side, every single game was in the Mets-Dodgers series was decided by 4 or more runs, but it did go to 6 games. So kind of the opposite sides of the coin there. But yeah, Sam, the big markets, the big spenders, the 2 best players in the league are facing off in the World Series, and it seems like the MLB and everyone who covers the MLB is incredibly happy about it, and I obviously am not. And I just, before we actually get into it, I kind of do want to express my frustration of some of the coverage in the MLB, because clearly Yankees Dodgers, that it's a good matchup. Obviously, the cities, the names, the brands, the players, all of that. Fox aired a commercial, or it may have been MLB actually. That MLB aired a commercial advertising the playoffs that showed 2 players. The whole thing was Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge from the very first pitch of the postseason. In the MLB or in the NLCS, the Mets just got eliminated in a big time miracle run. They were one of the most fun teams in baseball all year, and all you see on the coverage is everyone's like, "Oh, this is the matchup everybody wanted. This is the matchup everybody wanted." I mean, they lost less than an hour ago.
Yeah,
like what? Mets fans are still freaking watching the broadcast, and you're saying no one wanted you here, bro. Go home. The in-game coverage is talking about how the Dodgers should be commended by not using their high leverage arms in some games. Basically saying they punted those games. Mets, you won those because the Dodgers didn't want to. They punted those. It was a really frustrating coverage to watch. Not to mention, Sam, Fox's number 1 play-by-play announcer is the everyday announcer for the Dodgers. So that entire series was announced by the play-by-play announcer for the Dodgers, whose son's middle name is Oral, named after Oral Hershiser, the longtime Dodger great pitcher. So, look, I know this may come across as me just being salty because my team lost. I get it. But it's really tough to enjoy a postseason run from one of your teams. And obviously the Mets, in my life, Sam, 26 years on this earth, 18 or so, I've been able to comprehend baseball. The Mets have made the postseason, guess how many times in those 18 years?
12.
5. 06, 15, 16, 22, 24. So this doesn't happen for me, for Mets fans ever. And trying to enjoy it when they're just like, no one wants you here, bro. You're only winning games because they're letting you, bro. And even when the Yankees beat the Guardians, which happened one day before the Mets lost to the Dodgers, they spent a good 10-minute segment talking about how the Yankees were going to the World Series, how they'd match up against the Dodgers, without a mention of the Mets, and that series wasn't even over yet. So before we get into it, I had to express my frustration, but we do have a World Series.
Yeah, I mean, Dodgers, Yankees, the heavy hitters, the big markets, probably the 3 of the best 1, 2, 3s across MLB. You got Shohei, Mookie, Freeman on the Dodgers side, and then you have Juan Soto, Aaron Judge. Is it Juan John Carlos? Because that's how you spell John. John Carlos standing on the other side. Tanner, where does this game go? How do the Yankees win? How do the Dodgers win? And give me your prediction of who will be crowned World Series champs at the end of it.
Yeah, this is, obviously the big time heavyweight matchup. Going into this series, both offenses have been good. The Yankees have just been hitting home runs like no other team. Looking at the playoff stats, the Yankees have hit 13 home runs in 9 games, and a lot of their run output has come via the home run. The Dodgers actually have hit more home runs than the Yankees, but they've scored a lot more. They've scored more runs than the Yankees. They've played more games than the Yankees. So all of that, of course, factors in. The way the Dodgers win this, Sam, is through their bullpen. Because we mentioned it before, the Dodgers are just absolutely beleaguered without their starting pitching.
Yeah.
So many injuries. Tyler Glasnow injured. We all know they're Dustin May, and all of them have been injured for a long time. Kershaw's injured. Really, on their roster, pitching for the Dodgers, they basically have 3 starters. They have they have Jack Flaherty, they have Walker Buehler, and they have Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Then they go with bullpen games. So that bullpen has to be on point. They are way more taxed than the Yankees bullpen because of the amount they've been needed to pitch because of that starting pitching. But they need to show up because we saw what the Yankees did to Clase, who was the best closer, best reliever in the game. And now the Dodgers are going to have to pitch bullpen games, and with beleaguered starting pitching, they're going to have to get a lot more innings out of that bullpen. So that's going to be the key for the Dodgers. And then the Yankees, it's going to be the opposite. Lean on that starting pitching. They have the clear starting pitching advantage, and a bona fide ace in Garrett Cole, someone who's been great in that number 2 slot. It's Carlos Rodon for the Yankees. Those two have been as good of a 1-2 punch as you hope for in the playoffs, and those two are going to keep that bullpen rested because I think the Dodgers bullpen is better, but as I said, overused. The Yankees bullpen, they have a lot of high leverage guys. They can keep them fresh from strong starting pitching. That the bullpen will be obviously more effective and limit the Dodgers offense that has averaged almost 7 runs a game.
Damn. Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. Even if you're not a big MLB fan, you got to, if you want to see great baseball, these are the 2 teams. Probably not the most exciting headlines. There's not that underdog story for this matchup, but it's definitely 2 of the best teams. But Tanner, give me your prediction. I know it. You're gonna have a sour taste in your mouth making this prediction, but give me who you got in how many games, and who do you think's gonna win MVP?
Yeah, I'm gonna do my best to be, unbiased. I'm an unbiased journalist. But in all honesty, I'm gonna go with the better, more complete offense. The team that has no holes 1 through 9. And that's the Dodgers. I just think they are too good. That top 3, as you said, Sam, the best top 3 in baseball. Obviously, Freddie Freeman didn't play a few games in the NLCS. He's got basically a full week to heal. I have no doubts that he's going to be playing in the World Series. But that top 3 is as good as it gets. But with all that top heaviness in that Dodgers lineup, surely one of them won NLCS MVP, right? Right? Wrong. That was Tommy Edman who did that. So they just have insane depth. Tommy Edman hitting the way he did in the NLCS, and Kike Hernandez. We all know how good of a postseason hitter he is. Max Muncy just gets on base. He has the new record for getting on base streak in the postseason. Just like, this team has no holes. They will always find a way to get on base, and they will always find a way to tee it up for their big boppers, which seem to be all the way through the lineup anyway. So I think this Dodgers offense propels the Dodgers to a World Series championship in 6 games.
6 games. I like it. And who is your MVP?
something serious is going to have to happen for them to not give it to Shohei Ohtani. And to be honest with you, I don't think something serious is going to happen. I think they give it to Shohei. And now, when I say they give it to Shohei, that's not to imply that he won't earn it. But the Yankees starters, 2 of the 3 of them are righties. Clark Schmidt, Garrett Cole, righties. All of their high leverage arms are righties. Luke Weaver, Clark Schmidt, righties. Cousins, a righty. Their lefties, they don't go to all that often. They have one who kind of has a sidearm release. That's Tim Hill. He pitched in damn near every game in the CS. So where they use him is going to be key. But I just think this Yankees staff has abundance of righties that Shohei is going to tee off on.
Yeah,
and I've got Ohtani. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not a unique pick by any means, but he is definitely one of the best. In fact, here, did you know this is the first time since 1956 that the AL and NL home run leaders, obviously that being Aaron Judge and Shohei, will play against each other in the World Series?
That's
and
it's something like the first time
crazy.
I think it's the first time since 2013. So 11 years that the number 1 seeds made the World Series.
That's crazy, but it's going to be a fun one to watch, so tune in for that. But Tanner, you ready to talk about some college football?
Let's talk ball.
It was a fun weekend in college football, unless you're an Iowa fan or a Texas fan or a Bama fan, or a Nebraska fan. And that's what the games we're talking about. But Tanner, let's kick it off as the Big Red did not look so big against the Indiana Hoosiers as they manhandle them 56-7. Tanner, talk to me about this ass whooping.
Man, does Indiana look really good, man. The whole story with them was the strength of schedule, and it was bad. It was bad for sure. And I'm not going to lie, I kind of doubted Indiana in this game. I may or may not have responsibly put my hard-earned money on the fact that Nebraska would lose by less than 7, which clearly did not happen. And I was wrong at every single step of the way. This was an absolute domination. You look at the team stats, Sam, just absolutely dominated by Indiana. And the key factor here, man, it's we're Iowa fans. We have to look at the rushing stats, and Nebraska just could not get it going on the ground, and of course had to abandon it super early because of this big-time deficit. While Indiana was able to do it early, they stuck to it, and they had 2 rushers combined for 170 yards.
Yeah,
and that's a good recipe for keeping that Nebraska offense on the side. And then you look at Indiana's defense. Not only were they super sound against the run, which was huge, the ability to create turnovers. Rayola had 3 interceptions, and it was they also lost 2 fumbles, and they fumbled the third, but that they got back. So being able to create turnovers and limiting Nebraska's run game made that offense one-dimensional. Teed off on Rayola and absolutely dominated.
Yeah, I wish I had more to add, but I simply don't, Tanner. Absolute domination by the Hoosiers. They look for real. A team we didn't think was for real. The Tennessee Volunteers took on the Tide of Alabama and shocked a lot of people with this one. 24-17, Tanner. Not what anyone was expecting. I mean, Tennessee just coming off that loss to Arkansas a few weeks ago where Nico Iamaleava did not look good at all, but he comes in, has Rocky Top behind him, and Tennessee pulls off this win over Bama.
Yeah, I mean, this to me was the fraud bowl. And guess what? I still think both teams are frauds, which is crazy because I didn't think there was a chance in hell I was going to say the word Tennessee is a fraud because I was all over this team earlier in the year.
Yeah.
But they are. I mean, Nico Iamaleava, I think, he looked awful in this game, simply put. I mean, they won. But if I had a nickel for every wide open receiver up the seam, down the sideline that he overthrew, I mean, I'd be rich. Like this guy was incredibly inaccurate. And if he played well, they would have wiped the floor with Bama, who is now put back-to-back weeks of really struggling on tape. Both of these teams a top 5 matchup at one point. This was a top 11 matchup. I think Tennessee fell to 15 after this win, and Bama fell to like 21 or something.
Yeah.
Like, I think the committee or not committee because it's not the playoff rankings, but whatever AP poll saw what I saw, and just that this just was not impressive of a win. I mean, maybe that's not fair to say, but they just didn't look good in this win. And the exception to that, of course, would be the Tennessee running game. Tennessee looked good running the ball, specifically Dylan Sampson, their running back. He was very, very good, 139 yards with 2 touchdowns. He was the key to that offense, as I said, with Nico overthrowing every receiver known to man. But their defense has been good, in this stretch of them not playing good football. Their defense has been good. Alabama's offense has struggled, and Tennessee's defense did just enough to hold down this Alabama offense. And same story, man, just not able to run the ball. And Jalen Milroe with 14 carries for 11 yards. He's as good of a dual threat quarterback as there is in college football, and he just didn't have it. And when your offense is that one-dimensional against a good defense, you're not, a lot of times not going to have success.
Yeah, I mean, this game was the ugly girl contest, and they couldn't decide who's uglier, so they gave a team the trophy, and that's Tennessee. I mean, this game was it wasn't even fun to watch. It was a close game, as the score shows, but both teams, I totally agree with you, Tanner. It's fraudulent as hell. Jalen Milroe, I don't understand him. One week he looks like the best quarterback in the entire country. Next week he looks like one of the worst.
Literally, he goes between like Lamar Jackson and Cade Mack on a weekly basis.
It's incredible. And somehow Tennessee, you mentioned how good their defense and rushing attack. That is something to be highlighted in this game because Nico Iamaleava looked like shit, like you said. Yeah. So not much else to add, but interesting.
I think it was either 3 or 4 straight weeks where Tennessee was scoreless at the half. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to tell you, they didn't score against Bama. Week before that, they played Florida, and they did not score against Florida in the first half. Before that, they played Arkansas, and they did not score against Arkansas in the first, so that's at least 3. Before that, they played Oklahoma, and they scored there.
Okay, so I hope they scored against Oklahoma.
3 straight games of not a single point in the first half.
Yikes. That's not how you win ball games, especially in the SEC, man.
No, it is not.
Speaking of a team that's struggling, or struggled, I should say, last week in the SEC. Longhorns go down to the Georgia Bulldogs, Tanner. 30-15. This game was another ugly, ugly game. Neither quarterback played extremely well, but talk to me about this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was the Georgia team we expected to, and frankly, I mean, this is the Georgia team really we've gotten, except for one half against Bama.
Yeah.
And that game against Kentucky. But as we've said, there's always one game where Georgia, sometimes against South Carolina, Kentucky. There's another team in there that's, I can't remember who the other one is. But against a middling SEC team, they will always somehow win an ugly one. But coming back to Georgia, we just forgot. Like they were so good in that second half against Bama, and I think we just all forgot how good they were and how good this team is because we just saw they lost. And that defense is mean. They're mean. And I don't know what happened in the first half against Bama, but the second half they were good. And then against Texas, who is obviously number one team in the country, I'd say the best offense in the country, maybe behind Oregon, who is the current number one. Now that Texas lost, they held them to 15 points. I mean, Quinn Ewers had a pick. And I mean, they lost 3 fumbles as well, just constantly turning over the Longhorns and not being, again, we're going to keep going back to this theme, Sam. Texas ran for 29 total yards.
Yikes, man. This game was so ugly, Tanner. You mentioned Quinn Ewers struggling. Carson Beck did not play any better. Actually, probably played worse, Tanner. He had 3 picks. Did not look good, but they had that rushing attack with Trevor Etienne, had 3 touchdowns on the day. Looked good. But you mentioned their defense. I just want to put stats behind this Georgia defense. Texas was 2 for 15 on third downs. They were 1 for 5 on fourth down. You mentioned the turnovers. It was just the reason Georgia won this game is simply the rushing attack and defensive attack. Defense looked phenomenal. Looked like the Georgia of old, where they just have guys across the field on defense, and it showed on Saturday.
Yeah, now this throws a huge wrench in the SEC now. I mean, Bama beating Georgia, Georgia beating Texas. Will any of those 3 lose? If not, you got 3 one-loss teams. Nuts.
Yeah,
absolutely nuts.
It's going to be interesting to see. Do you know when the college football playoff rankings start to come? Is it this? Is it next week? It's got to be next week, right?
Let's see.
It's got to be within the next week or 2. Because we just wrapped up week 8. It's got to be soon.
I searched college football rankings. It's just giving me AP stuff.
Love that.
Playoff rankings 2024.
Great.
This is great podcasting. I mean, it's just giving me what it would be like right now. I don't know what it would be like right now. Playoff rankings release schedule. Found it.
Sweet.
All right. Tuesday, November 5th.
Okay.
Couple weeks.
It's really that late. That's crazy. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see how that all pans out. A lot of moving parts. It seems like when we think one team is the best team, they lose within the next couple weeks.
Oregon's turn now.
Yeah, but this team has always sucked. The Iowa Hawkeyes, Tanner, losing to Michigan State 32-20, Tanner. I mean, same old. Caden McNamara looks like shit. Shocker. But yeah, just kind of talk to me about this one. What are your thoughts? And
my thoughts aren't good. There's just nothing. There's just nothing. Scoreless in the first half. Call us Tennessee. The way we'd be doing that. And the defense, I don't know. I don't know what happened to the defense. I mean, it was supposed to be a big time strong suit, but not like they're just a fully bad unit. Mm-hmm. I don't think they were particularly impressive against Michigan State. 32 points to a bad Michigan State team is not good.
Yeah.
And the big plays this year have just been a big time issue. I was trying to make a comeback. They scored 2 touchdowns in the third quarter. At the end of the third, it was 19-14. and okay, we can maybe make a move with this. And then you just kind of get blown out in the fourth quarter because you can't get a stop, and it sucks. But of course, I mean, just the offense was absolutely brutal. Cade McNamara, simply put, cannot continue to play quarterback for this football team. A beat writer we both follow, who is, it's his job to work with the coaches and everyone, and even he's finally called for the quarterback change. He just can't continue. He can't continue to play quarterback for this football team, man. He is. He's just bad. He's just bad. Take a guess who our leading receiver was in this game.
Caleb Johnson.
Why would it be a receiver? There's just no words to describe how bad it is. Or nothing that we haven't said before. I know there was a stat that I wanted to pull up. Let's see if I can find it. Take a guess. Take a guess when the last time an Iowa quarterback threw for 300 yards.
So I did see this. It was November 2019?
November 2019.
Jesus. And Nate Stanley was the quarterback, of course.
From November of 2019, which is almost 5 years ago at this point. Most consecutive games without a 300-yard passer in the Power Four. 10th is Vandy. They haven't done it in 16 games. Tied for 7th, 8th, and 9th is Northwestern, Purdue, and UCF. They're at 17 games. 6 is Boston College, 18 games. 5 is Duke, 21 games. 4 is Minnesota, 22 games. 3 is Nebraska, 25 games. 2 is Rutgers, 29 games. And 1 is Iowa, 59 games. That is 30 more than the number 2 drought. And over double the number 2 drought.
Yikes. I knew it was bad, but good Lord.
That's how bad it's gotten. And I think this just shows everyone just how impressive I think Tim Lester has been this year. I think he's a quality offensive coordinator who's making chicken salad with chicken shit with this offense.
Yeah.
There's just no talent other than Caleb Johnson. There's the most important player on the field is unplayable. And now that's 3 or 4 straight quarterbacks that this head coach has brought in that have just been playing awful.
There you go.
So,
I don't know, man. Cade McNamara still give me what's named starter this week. So
yeah, I mean,
we have that to look forward to.
When the coaching staff can't evaluate talent enough to know who to bring in and play quarterback, what on earth makes you believe that they'd be able to see what they're putting on the field and evaluate that talent when they're on the team? Like, they just can't do it. They're just not good at evaluating offensive talent. They're horrible at it unless they're a tight end. And it's just, the program's never going to go anywhere unless this coaching staff changes, which it won't, because he's been here for forever. So that just means we can suck and he can just keep his job. But it's horrible. It's 5 years in a row now of just awful offense. And I'm getting really frustrated of it. Really frustrated with it.
Absolutely. Obviously, they made slight change. Tim Lester did, putting in Brandon Sullivan in the red zone. Well, here's another insult stat for you, Tanner. Cade McNamara passing stats inside the 5-yard line this year, including 2-point conversions. You want to guess on? So he's thrown 8 passes. How many have you think he has completed?
1.
Nailed it. How many yards?
1 for 8, 2 yards.
-1. And this is a play, Tanner.
Let's see the play.
It was against Iowa State.
Oh, and it was just,
and it wasn't even a little jet touch pass for those of you that could play college football 25. But yeah, dude, it's absolutely miserable. I mean, I I seriously don't know where Iowa goes. I've never been so uninterested in Iowa football ever.
I just don't care anymore.
Which sucks because Caleb Johnson is the second best running back behind a dude probably will beat Barry Sanders, one of the greatest running backs in college football history.
Just imagine if Travis Hunter had those amount of touches. But
That's true. I didn't think about that. But no, it's just it's sad that this is where the Iowa football program has arrived to. Unfortunately, talking to my dad, who has unfortunately been a Iowa fan longer, he said back when Hayden Fry was the coach, this is kind of how his tenure kind of ended, just like not giving the shit basically, and the program kind of taking a decline.
Yeah. Sam, gun to your head, you have to make the call now. Do you think Kirk Ferentz is Iowa's head football coach in 2025?
I do.
You do.
Unfortunately, I think there's a little, because he's under contract till 2029. I'd love to say yes, but I just don't see it.
What's not going to happen is he's not going to get fired.
Yeah.
Whether he retires or it's a retiring, like, dude, you just give it up. Like, whether the university says, give it up, man. Like, we don't want to fire you, but something's got to change.
Yeah. But if anyone has the balls to do it, it's
girl
Beth
Beth.
Goats.
Our girl Beth.
Gods, however you say your name.
She's been ruthless before. Boy, do we need it now.
Yeah.
This is bad.
But, like, you fire Kirk, who do you go after? Like, that's the thing. Because it's very clear Phil Parker does not want the head coaching position, because I'm sure he's been offered a billion times. I don't know. It's just a conundrum.
I've seen opinions that as soon as Kirk goes, so does Phil, and
that would not surprise me.
That wouldn't surprise me either. It would suck. I mean, it would absolutely suck. But we've done the good defense, bad offense thing, and it doesn't work. So
yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's the state of Iowa football. Not much has changed. Not much will change. Not much will ever change until Kirk Ferentz is long gone. But Tanner, you ready to talk some NFL?
Sure am, my friend.
Let's talk about it. Let's kick it off with the Packers taking on the Texans. A good matchup. Tanner, the Packers end up winning this one 24-22. And obviously the big question around this game is, what the hell happened to CJ Stroud in this one?
Bingo. That's all it is. That is all it is. I mean, I think these are obviously two very good football teams and two teams that will be in the playoffs. But CJ Stroud looked horrible. I mean, he had 10 completions for 86 yards. That is not CJ Stroud. I've never seen that out of CJ Stroud ever. He maybe did that in like sixth grade maybe at the time. And I think you just got to give credit to the Packers defense. It's a unit that has a lot of talent, has had a lot of talent in the past, but at least according to Packers fans, their defensive coordinator was lacking. They make the change. They get Boston College's head coach to leave coaching Boston College to come be the defensive coordinator for the Packers. And outside of that, maybe first half against the Vikings, where the Vikings offense looked great. I mean, the second half, the Packers defense was great. They've looked really good. And if it wasn't for Joe Mixon, the Texans just wouldn't have had an answer at all, and they would have gotten blood.
Yeah, absolutely. The fact this game came down to a last-second field goal is amazing to me. I think this is one of the best games we've seen from Joe Mixon, honestly, in a long time. He literally carried this Texans offense. But on the other side,
the leading receiver had one reception.
It's insane. Well, when you only throw it for 10.
Yeah, it's nuts.
But what never fails to amaze me is what they have a good roster, don't get me wrong. But usually you have a big name, especially in the receiving core, right, Tanner? Romeo Dobbs, okay. People know of him. Dontavian Wicks, Tucker Kraft, Josh Jacobs, shout out. It's his first receiving touchdowns in like a million
Crazy.
years.
First one in the NFL.
Jaden Reed, Christian, like this is who. Call me a casual. I only know like two of those names, but it's really impressive what Jordan Love is doing. That division, man, is. I mean,
yeah, this division is stupid.
It's so stupid.
It's stupid. It's stupid how good it is. But I mean, the wide receiver thing. I mean, Romeo Dobbs, as you said, one that's known. Christian Watson didn't even play in this game, and I would throw Jaden Reed in there. I think Jaden Reed is probably the best out of any of them as a full receiver. Obviously, didn't have his best game, last week. But yeah, guys like Dontavian Wicks, Bo Melton, like who?
Yeah,
the hell are these guys, and why are they going off? And I mean, it's par for the course with the Packers. They did it with Equiminibius St. Brown or whatever the hell his name was, and guys like Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and guys who have just leaving the Packers, they suck. And it's they just find a way to do it with no-name receivers, and it's continuing now.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of that incredible division, we had an in-division matchup, and your Vikings finally dropped one. After a roaring hot start, no one really expected. The Lions take on the Vikings 31-29. Tanner, I know your Vikings lost, but this Lions team is playing, if not the best in the NFL right now, one of.
Yeah. Lions are so good. They are so good. Just top to bottom, this team has more weapons than I don't know, freaking U.S. military.
It's insane.
It's insane, dude. You look at you try and stop all these wide receivers, and of course, obviously, the best of which is Amon-Ra St. Brown. But you think you do a good job on him, and then here comes Jameson Williams, who actually got suspended.
Yeah, all right. Rip.
So they won't have him for the next couple of games. But Jahmyr Gibbs is an absolute Swiss Army knife, dude. He was their second leading receiver and added 116 yards on the ground and 15 carries. That's over 10, or that is just, what is it? A little under 10 yards a carry for him. I mean, it's absurd. He added a touchdown on the ground. They have an embarrassment of riches on the offensive side, and then defensively, I thought they'd feel the hit of Aiden Hutchinson bigger. Obviously,
it's like they didn't skip a beat.
Obviously, the strength of this team will always be the offense, but the defense kept them in it. The Vikings scored a defensive touchdown to take the lead at one point, so you can't, and you won't expect a turnover like that from the Lions all the time. So just really, really good stuff coming out of the Lions offense there. Virtually unstoppable, and Jared Goff is the main reason why. I mean, there's going to be more on that to follow, but he is just playing unbelievable football.
Yeah, absolutely. And as good as the Lions were playing here, the Vikings were right there with them all game. I mean, if you take a look at the stats throughout this game, it's basically even. So I think we talk about either keeping, selling, stock. I'm keeping both of these. I think these are two of the best. Unfortunately, they play in an insane division this year, but definitely not something to be sad about. I mean, obviously, teams losing always sucks, but when you're playing the hottest team in the NFL, it's
right. No, I totally agree with that. I think this was just two really good teams playing really good football. Now, I do think there are things the Vikings need to clean up, right? I mean, this wasn't a perfect game, But I think Big Cat of Barstool said it best because he's a Bears fan. He was watching this game and he was like, he was trying to find something about either of these teams, and after it, he was just like, crap. Like, if the Lions just beat the crap out of the Vikings or vice versa, the Lions would fall to 4-2, where the Vikings would be 5-1, but a big time loss to the Lions, or Lions big time loss to the Vikings. You can kind of bring the fraud word to the forefront. Maybe the Bears or the Packers could sneak up ahead, but he's just like, no. I mean, it was two really good teams playing really good football, and it's clear to me that the Bears are the third best team in this division, and the Bears aren't bad. And they're the third best team in this division the fourth best team in this division, because this division is just that deep. I'm not selling any stock, as you said. This game went exactly how I thought it would. I picked the Lions in this game in our pick'em last week. It went exactly how I thought it would. The Lions are really good. The Vikings are really good. The Lions probably have the best offense in the NFL. So can't stop them when they're that good.
Simple as that. But moving on, the Super Bowl rematch, we picked this one last week. The Chiefs end up winning 28-18, Tanner. It's Elizabeth said last week, they just get it. Unfortunately, she was a little wrong about Patrick Mahomes can throw a ball because he struggled a little bit. Had 2 picks in this one, only 154 yards. But somehow, some way, they just get it done. Like Elizabeth said, they win 28-18. Give me your thoughts.
We'll start with the Chiefs because, yes, they get it. And one of the reasons they get it, this is the best defense the Chiefs have ever had. Which is crazy because they traded away with L'Jarius Sneed a year ago, one of the better cornerbacks in the NFL. But Sam, the Chiefs' defense is unbelievable, man. They are. I mean, just take a look at the. Let's take a look at their point totals allowed. 20 points to the Ravens, one of the best offenses in the league. 25 to the Bengals, also a really good offense. 17 to the Falcons, who we watched on that Thursday night score, 40 plus, 50 plus. 10 to the Chargers, 10 points in an NFL game. 13 to the Saints, another team that was one of the hottest offenses in football. And now 18 to the 49ers.
Yeah, not bad.
Steve Spagnuolo does it again. Just found an absolute living. Former head coach with the Rams. Didn't really work out. And then he can call a defense, man. And he just found a spot in a good spot, obviously. And has just really grown into that role. And is probably never going to leave. I mean, he's just perfect for it. No one really wants to hire him. He's not going to be a head coach again, but he's just excelling at his job of being defensive coordinator. So shout out Spags, shout out that defense. Mahomes has been terrible. He's the first quarterback in NFL history, I believe, to start 6-0 while throwing more picks than touchdowns. He's thrown 8 picks, 6 touchdowns, and his team 6-0.
And that's what makes this team so scary. Patrick Mahomes is not doing well. Travis Kelce has been unheard of. He
scored a touchdown.
He had 4 receptions today for 17 yards. Their top receiver was Noah Gray. I mean, it's stupid. I mean, when was the last time, Tanner, Patrick Mahomes didn't have 200-plus passing yards and 0 touchdowns, Tanner?
I mean, he
did rush, have a rushing touchdown, but that is what makes this Chiefs team so scary. That defense, man. But looking on the other side, turns out Brock Purdy might not be that good.
Yeah, the 49ers are back.
Yeah.
Meaning everyone just died at this point. They're all gone.
Yep.
I mean, Christian McCaffrey, obviously, everyone was waiting for the shoe to drop because the Niners and Christian McCaffrey, it's a rough pairing in terms of the injury bug. The 49ers are always injured. Christian McCaffrey is always injured.
Yeah.
And he remarkably stayed healthy as a 49er forever. Obviously, this year has not played at all.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Ayuk just signed to the big contract. He's out for the year with an ACL tear. Debo got sick or something.
Yeah, pneumonia.
He had a pneumonia, so he didn't play. I mean, they were throwing their wide receiving core was someone I've never seen before. Juwan Jennings didn't even play. They had Pearsall, of course. We all know who was shot in the robbery attempt. But then I can't even name you their other wide receivers that they played with.
Yeah, I saw a tweet about what's his name that got shot? Pearsall. How is a man that got shot 2 weeks ago the healthiest player on this team?
It's crazy.
Here's some names, Tanner. So George Kittle led the team in receiving,
of course.
Then we have Jacob Cowan.
Yeah, definitely.
Ronnie Bell.
Oh, Michigan. I know that guy.
Isaac Guriendo.
Oh, sure. Isaac Guriendo, yeah.
I think Chris Conley.
Chris Conley?
Yep. What you know about him?
Not much.
That was a receiving core. Brock Purdy.
Is Guriendo a running back? It might be a running back.
He is a running back.
Yeah.
He had a day. He had one reception for 5 yards.
Nice.
And one rush for 2 yards.
Nice. Wow.
So
2 touches, 5 yards, 6 yards. So, but yeah, I mean, obviously it's a tough spot to be in. But I saw one of my favorite tweets of the weekend was obviously we all know the clip of Donald Trump going and working at McDonald's. It was a picture of him or the video of him scooping fries, and it was Brock Purdy when his entire Pro Bowl offense is not playing, and he struggled because every single good player was injured.
Yeah,
so
maybe him and Cade can work at the same one. Did you see that one? It was 73 days from now, Cade McNamara, and it's the video of Trump.
Yeah, hey, one in Iowa that would welcome them with open arms.
Yeah, absolutely. But wrapping up, Monday night game, crazy game, high scoring, looked like a college game. Tanner, the Ravens defeat the Bucs 41-31. Tanner, give me your thoughts.
We'll start with the Ravens. Am I going to say it? Because Patrick Mahomes has looked horrible. Is Lamar Jackson the best player in football? He's playing like the best player in football.
He's playing like it.
Are we ready to anoint him as it? I don't know. But as of right now, he is playing like the best player in football.
Absolutely.
Him and Derrick Henry is exactly what we thought it would be. They were who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook because we let them find each other. Yeah. I mean, the running game is unstoppable. Lamar Jackson, not only is he the best player, I mean, he looks like the best pure passer in the NFL. And not to mention he's Lamar Jackson, and he's not fat anymore because he was fat and he lost all that weight, apparently. But they don't even have good wide receivers.
No.
And they're just so good, man. The offense is unbelievable, scoring 41 against the Buccaneers. There's not much I can say. I think the Ravens right now are the best team in football.
Yeah.
They're a team I do not want to play. No one wants to play. They started out 0-2.
Yeah.
0-2.
It's crazy.
They have won 5 straight. And keep in mind, that's an 0-2. The Raiders lost. That was a bad one. The Chiefs on the road, opening game, they lost because Isaiah Likely's foot is an inch too big.
Yeah.
So the Ravens, man, they're an unbelievable football team. Right now, they're my pick to come out of the AFC. I think they would beat the Chiefs in a potential rematch. That could just be me being stupid because the Chiefs always just make the Super Bowl for no reason. But the Ravens are really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned how good their offense was. Their defense was just as good. I
think it was 41 to 17 at one point in this game, and then they just garbage time,
giving up 31 points. You're probably like, Sam, really? Did they really play
the story at all?
They took away every offensive weapon for the Buccaneers. I mean, Baker Mayfield give the ball to their non-playmakers, and that's exactly what happened. Baker Mayfield got a little careless with the ball there, 2 picks, but you gotta take that with Baker because he's a gunslinger. But this Ravens team is a problem, man.
The Ravens team is a problem, and this was an absolute disaster for Tampa Bay, man. They lost the game, sure, whatever. They lost their two best players in this game. You could say Baker's one of their best players, sure. But I think if you look for a talent perspective, who the best two players on this team are, it's Mike Evans and it's Chris Godwin. Lost both of them. Now, Chris Godwin will be out for a very long time. His ankle was the complete wrong way. His foot was pointing the absolute wrong way. It was an absolutely nasty injury. Hoping for the best, the quickest and best and healthiest recovery for him. It was nasty. But yeah, they're going to be without Godwin for pretty much the entirety of the year. Mike Evans, I think the outlook is better. I don't exactly know what the injury was, but losing both of them in the same game when you lose to the Ravens, it's a disaster. It's an absolute disaster for Tampa Bay. We all know that division isn't the hardest in the world, but they've already lost to the Falcons. So they're going to have ground to make up, and doing it without their two top guys is going to be really tough.
Yeah, absolutely. Any more thoughts on this one?
No, man. I just think the main takeaways is you're just absolutely crushed if you're a Buccaneer fan because of everyone you lost. We just now got confirmation that Mike Evans will remain out through the week 11 bye.
Not great.
With a hamstring. So, yeah, not great at all. But crushing if you're a Buccaneers fan, and the Ravens are an absolute juggernaut right now.
Yeah, absolutely. But now it's time to talk players of the week. Tanner, who are you nominating for your college football player of the week?
But for my college player of the week, Sam, we're going to go to the Big 12. Obviously, we have talked at length how this conference is not the strongest this year in football. But this guy and his team put together a big win, their first in conference play this year, and they put up 59 points on the road. And that's the Baylor Bears, who went into Texas Tech, beat them 59-35. Jeez. Their quarterback, Sawyer Robertson. I know we all had him on our bingo card. The yardage might not be the most impressive, Sam. He went 21 for 32 with 274 yards. But anytime you throw for not one, not two, not three, not four, but throw for 5 touchdown passes, you are going to be in the running for a player of the week nod. He was absolutely incredible. 5 touchdowns, no picks. Baylor with a huge win, dropping 59 on Texas Tech's head.
Not bad. Not bad at all. Oh my God. Yeah, he went a little crazy. Wow. Was not expecting that, Terry. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
But for my college football player of the week, I'm gonna go with a Big Ten quarterback. Got a big win over Rutgers. Of course, I'm talking about UCLA and their quarterback, Ethan Garbers. Had the damn near perfect game, Tanner. 32 for 38, 383 yards, 4 touchdowns, also added 48 yards on the ground for another touchdown. So he looked damn near perfect and got a big win over Rutgers, especially with how that UCLA season has gone so far, because it has not been pretty.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, I'm not used to it. I mean, I'm kind of used to Oregon and USC because, football is the first sport really getting to experience these new teams. So when you talk about football, USC and Oregon, they're going to be talked about. I'm not used to UCLA at all. You said Big Ten quarterback. I was like, who the heck? And then you said UCLA, and I was like, oh my God. Yeah, that's a Big Ten quarterback, all right. But I'm not used to it. But yeah, he went crazy. UCLA. I mean, it's looking like a rough year for the Bruins, but win a highlight highlight a pretty special individual performance for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's flip it on the other side. Go into the pros. Who is your NFL player?
Yeah, Sam. I'm going to go with someone who I said we're going to be talking more about, and that's Jared Goff, dude. I don't think people. I mean, obviously, we know how good this offense is. We know all their weapons. When you take a look at the numbers, it's truly special what Jared Goff is doing this year, Sam. I mean, looking at his games, I mean, specifically against Minnesota, I mean, he had another game where he went 22 for 25. That's an 88% completion percentage. 88%. I mean, that's unbelievable. Of course, he threw for 2 touchdowns as well in a critical game against Minnesota. I mean, his passer rating. Take a guess what his passer rating was.
So what's the scale? I get this, and
yeah, they're all
QBR mixed up.
It goes. This is the one that goes above 100.
180.
Not quite. I think somehow the highest you can get is like 162 or something like that.
Okay, 160.
Yeah, he had 140
Jeez.
This week. Was absolutely special. The week before against Dallas.
That's rude.
I mean, we're just having a rough the week before against Dallas, he had a 153.7, and the week before against Seattle, a game in which he went 18 for 18, by the way, with almost 300 yards passing on 18 attempts, completed all 18. He had 155.8.
Yeah,
that's 4 straight games now with a passer rating above 100. He's got 4 straight games with a completion percentage above 70, including 3 of those 4 being above 75. He's playing special football. I mean, this is less of a this week performance, although it was very good.
Absolutely.
And more of just a 4-game stretch that is unbelievable. I talked about how Lamar Jackson might be looking like the best pure passer. That I take it back. Jared Goff is looking like the best pure passer in the league right now because all he's doing is just dropping back, finding open guys, and delivering it on time and on target. He's a special player this year, and the Lions are on fire because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's fair to say he would be the front runner for MVP if it wasn't for my player of the week. We talked about this game, but you got to highlight a dude that dominates in all aspects of his game. Of course, I'm talking Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson, 17 for 22, 281 yards, 5 touchdowns. Most importantly, 0 picks, had 52 yards on the ground. In fact, so let's play a little fun game. So most games with 5 passing touchdowns and 0 interceptions. So he now ranks 3rd among in NFL history. He did it in 84 games. So I'll give you the names under him, and you can guess the other 2. So Ben Roethlisberger has 5 games. He started 247 games. Peyton Manning 5 games, 265. Aaron Rodgers 231. So the ones above him, one has 8 with 286 total starts. Any guesses?
286.
286.
So at 16 a year, that's what? That's over 10 years. Give me Drew Brees.
Drew Brees nailed.
Oh, nice. That was pretty cool,
and
actually.
8 with 333 starts. Yep. Damn. I thought I was giving you a little struggle there. Oh, birthday. Yeah, dude. He is just unreal. What he's been doing, leading that Ravens team. But yeah.
I think we're talking about the best 2 quarterbacks or the 2 quarterbacks who are playing the best football right now. Let's put it that way.
100%. But we are gonna hop into some pick'em with a very special guest, a voice I think a lot of you are gonna remember. So stay tuned for that. And we now welcome on a familiar face and voice. Turnbough is back, ladies and gentlemen. Keegan, how the hell are you?
I'm doing all right, boys. How are you guys? I always forget how deep into the pod are we now? When we're getting deep into the triple digits, I mean, I feel like it all blends together for you guys at this point.
Guess what episode number? Go.
Yes. Okay. So you guys had me on.
I believe the last time you were on was episode 100.
I was going to say, I think it was 100. And at that point, whole different part of the state. I'm living in a new place now. My guess is probably going to be, give me 135.
More.
165.
Okay.
Not quite that much. We are at 146.
146. 150 is coming up. Well, congratulations to the two of you keeping it going. But
that's
very cool.
That's good guess.
I'm blushing.
That's good.
All right, let's get into some pick'em, boys. We'll kick it off. Number 12, Notre Dame going to Navy, ranked 24. Notre Dame is a 12.5-point favorite. But Keegan, who you rocking with?
Yeah, and just double checking here. Things haven't changed in terms of we're still doing money line here. Just pick'em.
Money line.
Spread.
Correct.
Money line.
Correct.
Because spread, very different situation here. In this game, this is something that's all about the tempo here. And for me, Notre Dame, if we're talking about the spread, Notre Dame's offense hasn't shown me enough this season to where I think they can pull away from Navy in this situation. But Navy's biggest weakness is going to be their rushing defense. They're hardly a top 100 rushing defense. Then you look at Notre Dame. That's what they do the best. So in this situation, I'm going to be rooting for Navy. Don't get it twisted. But in terms of who I think's going to win, unfortunately, I'm taking the Irish here.
Great pick, Keegan. Absolutely. I totally agree with you. I think Notre Dame sets the pace early on. Notre Dame has been quietly a very good football team since that embarrassing loss to Northern Illinois. They've taken care of business all around, obviously capped by that 66-7 win against Purdue and taking care of, at the time, number 15 Louisville as well. I think Notre Dame wins this. I mean, Navy, we love the story. It's a very good football team. I just have not played a ranked opponent yet. They get thrown right into the fire with Notre Dame. I think the Irish take this one.
How dare you guys disrespect the midshipmen of Navy? Give me the midshipmen. I love what they've been doing all year. And frankly, I don't trust Notre Dame. I don't. Riley Leonard has been up and down all year. So give me the midshipmen here. Moving on, we got Illinois traveling to Eugene, Oregon for a classic Big Ten matchup. Oregon is favored 21.5, very large spread. But Keegan, who do you got?
This is a similar one, not necessarily in terms of the matchup and how it breaks down, but in terms of vibes for me. I want to take Illinois here, but Oregon's just too complete of a team. Do they have a post big game slide coming off that win against Ohio State? Not the nice, we hot. Give me the Ducks.
I love it.
Channeling your inner Lee Corso there.
Quack boy. Yeah, no shit.
No, I agree with you. I mean, if there was to be a fall off, a hangover from that win against Ohio State, it would have been this past week, right? They played Purdue. We all know what the spoiler makers can do. A few years they've done it, and Oregon just put the hammer down, 35-0. We all know Oregon's offense. The biggest transfer quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, has been up and down at points this season, but is playing great football. But the impressive part for me, I know Purdue has had a rough year. They are in a rough spot over there, but that defense shut them out, and the defense looked good against Ohio State as well. I think, as Keegan said, Oregon is just a complete football team. At home, they win, they cover. Give me the Ducks here.
Quack, quack, quack. Give me 3. For 3, give me the Ducks. I mean, it's that simple. But moving on, let's go down to SEC country as Missouri travels down to Tuscaloosa to take on the Tide. They are 13.5-point favorites as Alabama, of course. But Keegan, who do you got?
Yeah, I wish we had last year's Mizzou team playing this year's Tide because that Missouri rolls the Tide. That wasn't supposed to be a pun, but it happened. But if we look at Missouri, no, that was completely unintentional. But if you look at Missouri's schedule and what they've done this year, I personally wrote them off when they had that close win against Vandy, but then they just get shit pumped against I can't think of who it was.
What, Texas A&M, I believe.
Yeah, Texas A&M. But then you look at Texas A&M and what they've been doing this year. In this situation, I think the Tigers have a good enough defense to make Bama a one-dimensional team. And when you do that, I don't think Jalen Milroe is good enough to take the Tide over the Tigers here, meaning Bama doesn't get to double-digit wins in the first post-Saban year. And they continue their slide here today. I got Missouri.
Wow. That's an interesting pick. I mean, I think Bama is the first team. I mean, they're playing in back-to-back fraud bowls they played Tennessee last week, absolute fraud bowl. And then I think we're doing it again. I mean, Missouri, again, similar to Tennessee, man. Missouri was a team I was very high on. A lot of people were preseason top 10. You mentioned how Missouri was last year. It's just not the same team. Something isn't clicking, and their wins have been ugly. I mean, our very first guest picker to win a Superdog win against Missouri last week against Auburn at home, and they just didn't look good. And they probably should have lost that game if it wasn't for a pretty impressive fourth quarter comeback. So, I'm not going to go with Missouri here. I don't trust Bama at all. They're in a free fall. I just think Missouri is falling a little faster. So give me the Tide in an ugly, ugly game.
Question for you guys here. And Sam, I don't mean to interrupt your pick here, but with the bounce back, because I thought 2 weeks ago, I thought Bama was in a similar spot here where, okay, coming off that loss against Vandy, all right, there's a bounce back spot for them. And they barely squeak it out against South Carolina. I mean, we could put, if things had gone a little differently, we could potentially have been talking about a 4-loss Alabama team on the other end of this weekend. But they're fraudulent in my mind. But like you said, it is a bit of a fraud bowl. But Sam, which way are you going in the fraud bowl if you want to do
fraud bowl part 2?
Don't give a piss about nothing but Tide. As Roll Tide Willie says, give me Alabama. These are up and down teams. I mean, Missouri need a miracle to come back against Auburn, who, frankly, they just get it, according to Elizabeth. But give me the Tide here. I just don't trust Missouri. Their quarterback got banged up last week, so I think that factors in here. But I expect a big game from Jalen Milroe, so give me the Tide here. Moving on, though, let's go down to Aggie land as Texas A&M hosts LSU in a big, big SEC matchup. A&M is favored by 2.5, but Keegan, who you got here?
Now, this is, I forget which game it was earlier. So one of you guys said that you don't trust either team in that situation. It might have just been this last game, actually. But this is something for me where I really don't trust either of these teams. These are both teams that rely on one side of the football. And funny enough, or one part of their offense, rather. And LSU with their pass, Texas A&M with their rush. In this situation, I think I just trust Texas A&M's rushing attack more, that they're not going to turn the ball over in a big situation versus looking at LSU and Nussmeier. I just don't trust LSU more than I don't trust Texas A&M. So I'm going to take Texas A&M getting the big win at home, staying undefeated in the SEC.
Anna?
Man, I hate to do it again, but Keegan, I totally agree with you. I think, I'm not high on either of these teams. LSU, maybe it's just a first impressions thing. I was very much not impressed, obviously, after their loss to USC. And since then, I mean, a close game against South Carolina. If you remember, South Carolina's quarterback got knocked out in that game, and it kind of felt like if he continued to play, South Carolina might have taken that, and we're already looking at a 1-2 LSU team at that point. What have you done for me lately? I mean, they had that big win against Ole Miss, but I mean, Ole Miss might be the king of the frauds, I think, in terms of winning big games under Lane Kiffin.
I lost so much money on Ole Miss.
Let's say it responsibly, of course. But yeah, I just don't trust LSU, and especially in College Station. I think it's going to be roaring. I mean, it's the A&M's it's been a long time since A&M has been this good and had a matchup this big. So I think they're going to be roaring. The 12th man will be into it. Give me A&M at home.
Disgusting, you two. Go Tigers. Give me LSU. Get the hell out of here. Absolutely disgusting, you two.
Oh, how did I forget about that?
Yeah,
I feel
disgusted. Y'all are Colt supporters, but that's a conversation for another day. So give me the Tigers. Let's move on to the NFL slate as the Eagles take on the Bengals. Both teams not living up to their hype going into this season, but the Bengals are favored by 2.5. Keegan, who do you got here?
Yeah, I like the Bengals in this one. I don't know if you guys saw this tweet, but there's something about when the leaves start to change colors. It's this part of the season when Cincinnati turns it on year after year. They love the slow starts, but from this stretch of October through the rest of the season, I mean, they're a dangerous squad, and I'm not putting my money on Sirianni, that's for sure. Give me Cincinnati.
This game is fascinating to me because both teams struggled. They are coming off back-to-back wins, but it's a classic case of, for both teams, are they back or did they just play Deshaun Watson and Daniel Jones? Because both of their 2 wins were against the Giants and the Browns. So that's fascinating to me. Obviously, the game in Cincinnati, but I agree with you. I don't want to put my money on Nick Sirianni. I'm going to put it on AJ Brown because he is a difference maker for this football team. Obviously, yes, Saquon has been the straw that stirs the drink for that offense. But when you add the ability to throw the football, the Eagles, when they looked really bad, were without AJ Brown, were without Devontae Smith. They are back now. That offense is looking better. I think he is the difference maker. And the Eagles so far this year, we talk about how bad they've been. Oh my gosh, they're not that good. They're 4-2, right? They're 4-2. And I think they get this win in Cincinnati, and the nightmare start for the Bengals continues. Give me the Eagles.
You know, I went with the Bayou Bengals with LSU. Give me the Cincinnati Bengals in this one. Give me Joe Burrow has to figure it out at some point, right? And I think he does this week. I haven't been impressed with the Eagles. It seemed both of these teams are fine. I think the Bengals will fight a little more in this one. So give me the Bengals here. Moving on, we go down to Tampa Bay as the Falcons visit the Buccaneers. The Falcons are favored by 2.5 here. But Keegan, who you got?
I feel so bad for Tampa Bay. Like, losing Mike Evans early in that game, and then in garbage time, losing Chris Godwin for the season there at the end. In my mind, it's a totally different game if those two are in it. But minus them, I gotta take Atlanta. I have no idea what this offense is going to look like for Tampa Bay, and Atlanta did not look good last week, but I just trust that. I trust them more than Tampa minus their best 2 weapons. So give me Atlanta on the road. An individual game, kind of scary, but I'll take Atlanta.
Look, Cade Otton's going to have to be your leading receiver in this game. I mean, it's just how it's supposed to. It's just how it has to go. We talk about how this past week was an absolute disaster for Tampa Bay. It just was. The Tampa Bay hasn't been able to run the ball all year long. I mean, Rashad White, Bucky Irving, they've been not good at all. Incredibly inefficient. Baker Mayfield's been good, but obviously now without his top two weapons, and then you look at the other side, the Falcons did not look good. I don't think there's a chance in hell Kirk Cousins has back-to-back bad noon games. I mean, this is the noon nightmare we're talking about here. Give me Cousins at noon. I think the Falcons get the win on the road. The Buccaneers are just too injured.
Yep. Make that 3 for 3. This Buccaneers team, as y'all said, are torn to pieces. And I just don't trust whatever name you mentioned being a valuable wide receiver.
Damn, put some respect on On's name.
That was their leading receiver on Monday Night Football.
Give me the Falcons. But moving on, we have the PMT Bowl. The Bears versus the Commanders. Keegan, who you got?
I didn't even realize that. But do we know if Jaden Daniels is supposed to be back? No,
We don't.
And for that exact reason, I think I might have been taking Chicago anyways. But minus Daniels, the Bears are the much better defense. Frankly, they're the only team that has a defense here. And plus the Commanders losing. Well, I mean, I would say the engine to that offense, but they still did pretty well without Daniels last game. But give me Chicago here.
Left hand. Who are we? The yes, and obviously this is contingent on whether or not Jane Daniels plays. I think a full week of a defense that is not the Carolina Panthers, preparing for Marcus Mariota could potentially spell disaster for the Commanders. But with all that being said, Jaden Daniels' mom tweeted after the game, he's all right. Just that's it. He's all right. And you know what? I trust her. All right. She said he's all right. I think he's all right. The commies, man. I mean, we've all seen what they've done this year. They've been the surprise team, the leader in the NFC East at home. I mean, this is number 1 versus number 2 pick. I'm going with Jane Daniels. I think he wants to show everyone why he should have been the number 1 overall pick. Give me the commies, baby.
You stole my thunder, Tanner, because I was going to do the exact same thing. Give me the Commanders. I totally agree with what you said, Tanner. I think this is a bigger than just a football game. I think Jane Daniels has something to prove in this game, and he thinks he should have been number 1. And I think he either is as healthy as we've seen him all year, or he plays through injury and kicks ass. Give me the Commanders here.
Woohoo.
Final game we got here. The battle of the shit. Oh, the Cowboys and the 49ers, both teams with very high expectations going into this season. Both have severely underperformed. Keegan, who you got?
I mean, I couldn't say it better myself in terms of the preview for that. In terms of who I'm picking today, Cowboys coming off the bye, and then you look at the Niners. You got Ayuk, who's out for the season. Debo's hurt. Dwan Jennings, Kittle, they're both questionable for the game. CMC's in Germany, I think. Kyle Juszczyk's their best weapon. The Cowboys aren't good this season. Don't get it twisted.
This is true.
But I think they're better. They're the better Niners. So give me them boys.
I mean, what did we say? We said earlier in the show that the guy who got shot before the season is the most healthy player on this team right now.
Yeah.
He's the most healthy weapon. And you said it, the bye week can't be understated. Like the Cowboys were not healthy going into the bye week. At the very least, the people who are healthy got some rest. where the 49ers are just trying to find trying to find bodies to fill roles at this point. Give me the Cowboys in this game as well. Also worth noting that the Cowboys are 3-0 on the road this year and 0-3 at home. This game,
let's go
in San Fran. This right where the Cowboys want to be on the road. But this has to be an all-time bad vibes game. Just both the vibes could not be worse for either of these teams. Real bad vibes.
So they're, after going undefeated at home last regular season, they completely flipped the script. So yeah. I wonder what team started that streak at home for Cowboys.
Rude.
What team started the streak of them losing at home?
Yeah.
Well, this year that would be the New Orleans Saints.
That would be the Saints this year. Which, by the way, don't want to derail too far here. I mean, talk about a team that's been up and down. Too late.
We're already derailed.
But yeah, Sam, you taking the boys?
But hold on. We the boys. Yeah, I got the boys. The 49ers have Brock Purdy without the Infinity Stones, so I hope y'all like that reference. So give me the boys here. That leaves us to the Superdogs of the week. Tanner, we finally got a guest picker to get right by a half a point.
Hey,
a win's a win.
Give you a hook.
A win is a win. Elizabeth said Auburn gets it. They do get the spread. Unfortunately,
an all-time choke to not win the game. But hey.
Unfortunately, she still finished 4-4. My dad Ron still sitting at top at 8-0 with 8 total points. But Keegan, who is your super dog?
So my super dog is someone that got absolutely demolished last week. So I'm expecting them to bounce back on the road in Columbus. I got the Huskers plus 25.5 is the line I'm getting them at. I think they keep it competitive enough. I don't think Ohio State's 4 touchdowns better than Nebraska. At that mark, I think they're being undervalued a little bit there. So I'm going to take Nebraska on the road. I don't think Dylan Raiola turns it over as much. Give me the Huskers.
Disgusting.
That's disgusting. But hey,
it's going to be a sweat. It's going to be a sweat.
Some big time backdoor potential there. But you know what? I'm going to stay in that conference because I think the Big Ten is ripe with some dogs this week. And now I'm going to pick a game that I don't think is a headliner for the Big Ten this week. The Battle of the M's. Maryland is going to Minnesota. The Terrapins are 4-point dogs, and Maryland is fresh off a big-time win against USC. They can kind of parlay that into a little bit of a run here. I like Maryland to cover this. They're coming off an embarrassing loss 2 weeks ago to Northwestern, and I think the message was clear in that locker room based on that second half against USC. And now they go to Minnesota, a team that has been a little bit up and down this year. They're coming off a win at UCLA. I just simply put, they're coming off a bye, actually, Minnesota is. And 2 weeks ago, they won at UCLA. Simply put, I don't think UCLA is that good. I think Minnesota might come out a little sluggish. Maryland coming off the big win, goes into Minneapolis, covers the +4.
I like it. You know, I was debating between these two games. I was pretty set on this one, and then I saw this other game. It's a 1.5 spread. The line makes no sense. And as they say, Vegas always knows something we don't. So I'm going against that game, and I'm just going to jump around. Give me Wisconsin plus 6.5 versus Penn State. Y'all have heard me on the podcast. I don't trust Drew Aller. Haven't all season.
Yeah.
So give me Wisconsin. They've shocked a lot of people, especially after that Tyler Van Dyke injury, and it seems they've been playing better ever since. So give me the Badgers here.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't expect that one.
the key is going to be stopping Penn State's main offensive weapon, right?
The guy that throws the ball, runs the ball, catches the ball, blocks.
That would be Tyler Warren,
Yeah.
who catches the ball for over 200 yards, scores a touchdown, snaps the ball, as Keegan said, throws the ball, does all of the above. Can they stop him?
So the other game I was looking at, BYU.
Yeah.
Y'all seen this spread?
I was thinking of that one too.
They're plus 1.5 versus UCF. A little confused.
UCF is such a strange team. I mean, started the season off well, was ranked, got absolutely schmeng bopped by Colorado in a game where they were 2 touchdown favorites. Then they go to Iowa State where they're 2 touchdown underdogs.
Yeah.
And go out and should have won. Should have beat them. So I don't know. I don't know what to think with this UCF team. I really don't.
Yeah.
Really strange to pick it for sure.
Definitely interesting. But BYU's the money line. So make that make sense. I don't know. But Keegan, we asked this to everyone. 11 potential points up for grabs. Do you dethrone my dad Ron and get a perfect week here?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I'm standing by my picks. Of course, I'm running the table. I want to pick these
games. All 11.
You're getting all 11.
So now, to put this in perspective, in order to get all 11, your Superdog has to win the game.
Oh, I'm not getting all 11. No, that's not happening.
Hey, to dethrone Ron, all you have to do
9, right? Yeah.
Perfect and cover. That's all you need.
All right.
Even a push would.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're because all you need is 9, right? Because an 8-0 and then plus the Superdog. So all you need is 9 points.
That's all we need.
All you need.
Just don't get lower than 3 because that's our lowest right now.
Ooh, who is that?
It's been 2. Brandon and a buddy of mine named Blake. So my sister, who knows very little, went 4-4 and got the only Superdog of Pick'em this year.
Guest picker to win a Superdog. So
I mean, hey guys, I think she might have been onto something. I don't think Georgia has national title hopes.
And natty potential is
they don't got natty potential. They don't got.
I don't think they have it.
Oh my god! But Keegan, thank you so much for coming on. Obviously, it's been a while. You were a big part of this podcast, so we had to have you back on to make some picks. We hope you enjoyed it. But thank you so much for coming on, man.
Yeah, definitely. You guys can have me on anytime, but appreciate it.
All right, buddy.
Thanks, Geeks. Wow. Wasn't that awesome, Tanner, having Keegan back on the pod. It's been a while since he's been on, so it's always good to have him back. Let's see how he does this week in Pick'em. But Tanner, we got some questions for us. Our first question comes from my mom, Carol Godsey. She wants to know, with the both of you not growing up in Iowa, how did both of you guys end up going to Iowa and growing and being Hawkeye fans? So, Tanner, I'll let you answer first.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Hawkeye fan part, it's just every Saturday. It was what happened. You know, it was just we wake up. Yeah, there are a lot of kids that it's one of my favorite things. A lot of kids talk about, that we watch Saturday morning cartoons. No, I didn't watch Saturday morning cartoons. I watched Saturday morning College Game Day.
Yeah,
I watched Saturday football all day, and of course the headliner for us was always the Iowa game. I mean, it's just what it was. Like it was a religion at that point. And in terms of going to Iowa, actually. So, I grew up rooting for Iowa, big fan, of course, for all the reasons I just said. But my freshman year of high school, and which was my brother's junior year of high school, my parents wanted him to see Iowa's campus, and I went along. And that's when I was just like, at my freshman year of high school was pretty much when I was like, yeah, I want to go here. Like, I just do. Like, I grew up idolizing this school. I love their athletics, and what I wanted to go to school for, they were particularly good in. And if I'm going to go to school, why the hell wouldn't I want to go watch my favorite college football team play every Saturday? So it was an easy decision for me to go there. And I always loved the school, but it became really real for me my freshman year of high school when I went to campus the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of same thing. Both parents went there. Kind of grew up watching Iowa sports across the board, particularly football, because growing up, Iowa basketball wasn't really a thing to watch because they were, frankly, quite terrible.
Correct.
But, I mean, just growing up, I had the generic Iowa jerseys, the Hawk Shop jersey, shirts galore. I mean, I had it all. Actually had a family friend, shout Jerry, was a videographer, so had that. My uncle was a walk-on for Iowa there for a little bit, and ran track there. So my whole family's kind of been around Iowa. So that's kind of how I grew up to be an Iowa fan. And then I ended up going to Iowa because it's either Iowa or Arkansas, and I needed to get out of Arkansas a little bit. What really made up my mind, I visited Iowa, obviously loved it. Saw Kinnick coming. I was like, hell yeah. Again, have my heart broken here a lot, and turns out it wasn't as much as I thought. But I was at an Arkansas thing, and they went to do the Woo Pig Suey. Obviously, you've seen me do it, and I was the only one in the building that did not do it. And I was like, all right, I'm going to Iowa. And so that's how I ended up at Iowa. We, for those of you who don't know how me and Tanner met, this is a funny story. So you fill out this application, and you find roommates through like a portal, basically. They recommend, what was it, 70?
Yeah, it was.
Like if you have a
similar based on how you answer.
Ability.
Yeah, basically an eHarmony for roommates kind of.
Yeah.
And they always we recommend you message someone who's 70%, or might even been 65%.
Yeah.
And we were 98% similar or something. And I was just feel like, if they're saying 65, I feel like we should, at least talk to each other. And
yeah,
we didn't really, it was only 3 or 4 back and forth. And we're just screw it. Yeah, why not? Let's do it.
Yeah.
It's either this or random. And at least this one we know we have stuff in common.
Yeah. And here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are. Years later.
It's funny. I went back to the university every year of high school and to see a football game. So my freshman year, there was that one. And then my junior year was the year we went to the Rose Bowl. I believe we saw Maryland that year. And then my senior year was the game against Michigan, where we won. We won on the last second field goal. And everyone rushed the field, and that was pretty awesome. That was that memory, of course, is ingrained in my mind. But one that really stands out to me was I toured a bunch of other schools up in the East Coast, and one of the ones I did was Penn State. And I was touring Penn State. I actually did like Penn State, but we were we were in the bookstore and we were looking around their athletics, and they had a picture of a Penn State moment, and they were playing Iowa. And I went up to my dad and I was like, "Oh, Dad, that game? I remember the game. We lost. I can't remember what the instance was, but we lost blank to blank. And I remember. I guess it was before Stanley. Whatever. It's Stanzi had X amount of passing yards, and man, we lost because of this. And my dad was basically just like, dude, you were in the bookstore of Penn State and you were sitting there talking about
Yeah.
me, everyone on the Iowa team. Like,
Yeah.
and I was like, you know what? You're right. Like,
Yeah.
Iowa football, Iowa sports. The University of Iowa is where I wanted to be. And that stood out to me for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. So that's kind of how we ended up being, unfortunately, Iowa Hawkeye fans as of late. It's been good for a lot of years, but lately not so much. But at least for not this next question, Tanner, this comes from my brother, Eric. He says, it's time. When is basketball season? Fortunately for you, Eric, you don't got to wait long.
Yes.
Because Arkansas actually tips off Friday against Kansas in a little charity exhibition.
Look at that.
So it's right around the corner. You got a lot of things to be excited about regarding Arkansas basketball. Obviously, got rid of Muss. He went out to the Big Ten powerhouse USC, and you brought in Calipari. So I'm sure you're not too heartbroken about that, but it's not too much longer, Eric. You'll make it. I have a feeling. But Tanner, we have a question from your brother. He wants to know which team or teams will end up missing the college football 12-team playoff.
Yeah. This did he asked for a spicy take, right?
Yeah, spicy one, a little spicy.
All right, I think mine's going to be spicy, Sam. Right now, if you held a gun to my head and said you have to choose whether or not they do or don't, I still think they probably would. But of any of the top teams, I think this team is by far the most likely to plummet and might not even make it to begin with, or when it's all said and done. I'm going to go with Penn State, Sam. Obviously they have a big time matchup this weekend in Madison. Wisconsin looked better these past few years. I think that's a chance. That's obviously, you never know in college football.
Yeah,
that's a tough game, and Wisconsin could always get them there. And then after that, they are home, but they do have to play Ohio State. And there's one thing about Penn State: they do not beat Ohio State very often. And I think Ohio State is still one of the best teams in college football, and I do think Ohio State wins that. So back-to-back losses, then you have to finish out the season. Now, none of those games are particularly, you're looking at it like, wow, they might be in trouble. Versus Washington, Purdue, Minnesota, and Maryland is what they finish out with. But 2 losses in there, and even if they kind of get beat badly, you have a whole logjam of teams, Sam, that are 1 or 0 losses in there.
Mm-hmm.
And like you look at the Big 12, like Iowa State is undefeated. Kansas State has 1 loss. If those go back and forth, maybe K-State beats Iowa State. They're both 1 loss.
Yeah.
Maybe one of them doesn't make, maybe BYU has something to say, and one of them doesn't make the Big 12 championship game. So then the other one wins. They're both 1 loss. Do they get in over Penn State? I think they might. You have Oregon. If they lose those 2 games, Penn State they wouldn't play in the Big Ten because that'd be Oregon, Ohio State. But you have an independent Notre Dame in there, obviously, with the 1 loss. They'd probably make it over you. Clemson, you got an ACC logjam too. I mean, if they win, they're going to win the ACC, which I think they will. They're going to leapfrog ahead of them. Miami has something to say about it. They'll be in there. There's a lot of 0 and 1 loss teams, Sam. And if it goes the way that I think it might, Penn State might be on the outside looking in with those 2 losses.
Yeah, absolutely, Tanner.
If they do lose 2, of course, which I think they might.
I was actually looking at that team myself. I really like that pick. I think you're not far off. You actually mentioned the team I'm going with, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They are an interesting team this year, Tanner, but they have a tough schedule down the stretch. Going in Saturday, we picked this game early. They got Navy, one of the hottest teams in the country. I think one of the underrated teams of the college football rankings right now. They do take on the god awful Florida State Seminoles. Virginia, okay, I give them those 2.
Which is pesky, but yes.
Then we got Army, another surprising team of the year, and then they wrap up with USC. Who knows what that team's going to look like? I don't trust Notre Dame. I think that Northern Illinois, if they drop even one to either Navy or Army. I think they do drop one of those. I mean, if not both, you got to go back to September 7th. Northern Illinois, who has looked terrible since that game. A lot of question marks, not having a conference alignment or conference tie-in. That might hurt them in this case, especially with those couple losses that they could potentially have.
Yeah, no, I don't hate that at all. Who would have thought that when you look at the schedule and you're like, wow, they got some good teams on there, like Florida State. Yeah, that it's Army and Navy that they're down the stretch.
Yeah,
and USC is no given either, obviously, and on the road, big time rivalry. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a Notre Dame's going to have to be sharp down the stretch. I think my only thing to play devil's advocate would be that the committee is going to do everything they possibly can to put Notre Dame in the playoff. Literally they will look at every metric, every strength of schedule, every single strength of opponent type of crap.
100%.
But yes, no, I agree with you. That schedule definitely gets difficult. And I mean, they don't got a lot of wiggle room right now. They're coming in 11 in the AP poll. So
we'll see. So looking back on that Northern Illinois game, since after Notre Dame, they lost to Buffalo. They lost to NC State. They beat UMass, who is one of the worst teams. Beat Bowling Green by 10. Lost to Toledo. That's going to hurt them, I think. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's one. I mean, of all the teams in the top 12 right now, which is Oregon, Georgia, Penn State, Ohio State, Miami, Texas, LSU, Tennessee, Clemson, Iowa State, Notre Dame, and BYU. Notre Dame is the worst loss.
Yeah, 100%.
Northern Illinois is the worst loss.
100%. But that will wrap it up for episode 146. We had an action-packed episode for y'all, kicked off with some winners and losers. Tanner and update us with some MLB playoffs and the unfortunate loss of the New York Mets and the unfortunate matchup in Tanner's eyes, the Dodgers versus the Yankees. Recap some crazy games in college football. The red hot Lions and the red hot Ravens wrapped up with players of the week. Got to pick some games with a familiar face. Keegan, Turnbough, and of course, wrapped up with questions of the episode. You can follow the podcast on TikTok, X, and Instagram at crunchtime_pod. We're also on YouTube, Crunchtime with the N326 duo, so make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. But the clock has run out on this one. We'll see you on the next one on Crunch Time.
R.I.P. Grimace.